A very good morning to all. Today in this class, we will be discussing about later Vedic period. So, in the previous class, we discussed that the last three Vedas, that is the Samaveda, the Yajurveda and the Atharvaveda were composed between 1000 BCE to 600 BCE, and this period is known as the later Vedic period. So, kids, we can say that the later Vedic period extended roughly from 1000 BCE to 600 BCE, and during this period the Aryans they moved from Punjab to the central part of India, and it came to be known as the Aryavarta. That means the land where the Aryans settled, and most of the knowledge about the later Vedic period we get from the literatures which were composed during that period, and the literature consists of the three Vedas, that is the Samaveda, the Yajurveda and the Atharvaveda. Then we have the Upanishads, Aranyakas, Brahmanas and the two famous epics, that is the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. So, these were the literatures composed during later Vedic period. Now, let us discuss them one by one. So, here the first one is the Samaveda, and it contains the hymns sung by special class of priests while performing various religious ceremonies, rituals and sacrifices. And the next one is the Yajurveda. It consists of rules which have to be followed while performing various religious ceremonies, rituals and sacrifices. And the next one is the Atharvaveda, and it consists of songs, magical charms and spells that keeps us away from the evil spirit. Now, let us move on to the next literature, that is Brahmanas, and these are the texts attached to the Vedas which explains the social and religious aspects of the Vedas. Then we have the Aranyakas, which is also known as the forest books, and these contains the philosophical thinking of the rishis who meditated in the forest. Next one is the Upanishads, and these are the books that emphasize on the need of understanding true relation between Atma, that is our soul, with the supreme God, that is Lord Brahma. And then we have the two famous epics, that is the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, and they show the life and culture, civilization and value systems of the later Vedic period. So, this was about the literatures which were composed during the later Vedic period. Next, let us move on to the political life of the later Vedic period. So, during this period, the Aryans they settled all over India, and by the establishment of large kingdoms, the kings they became more powerful, and they considered themselves to be the representative of God on earth, and his office became hereditary. That means the power remained within the family, and new posts were formed in the administration like charioteer, treasurer, collector of taxes, etc. And here during this period the taxes were collected from the common people by using force. And the king also performed public and important sacrifices like Ashwamedha, Rajasuya and Vajpaya. So, the kings they performed these public and important sacrifices to show their increasing power and prestige. So, this was about the political life of the later Vedic period. Next, let us move on to the economic life. Here, the main occupation of the people was agriculture, and they grew different types of crops including rice. They used new agricultural tools and techniques to produce these different types of crops. And this period is also marked by the discovery of iron, and the people they used iron to make different tools and implements, and they used it to clear the forest of that particular region. The people they also used painted grey ware, So these are the pots in grey color with floral designs in black on it. So this was about the economic life of the later Vedic period. Now next, let's move on to the social life. Here, in the early Vedic period, the members of the same family could follow different occupation. But now in this later Vedic period, the members of the same family could not follow different occupations. That is, the occupations performed by different groups had become fixed. And here, the caste system and the social differences became very rigid and hereditary. For example, only a Brahmin son could be a Brahmin and perform the duties assigned to the Brahmin. And during this period, the Brahmins, they had high post in the society and they were well versed in religious affairs. They were also the advisors in the king's court. Now here the next group is of Kshatriyas. They were the defenders of the kingdom. The next one is of Vaishyas, which consist of common people, that is the farmers, weavers, potters, traders, merchants and so on. Then we have the Shudras. So these are the group of menial workers. So these are the 4 different social groups of the later Vedic period. And here in the family life, the power of the male head, that is Grihapati, it increased, and the women, they lost their power and importance in various social and religious ceremonies, and they no longer participated in Sabha and Samati. And during this period, the people, they believed that life of man was divided into 4 ashramas, that is Brahmacharya, which means studenthood, Grihastha means family life, Vanaprastha, that means retirement to the forest and meditation, and the last one is the Sannyasa, that means total cut off from the society. So the people during the later Vedic period, they believed in these 4 ashramas. So this was about the social life. Now next, let's move on to the religious life of the later Vedic period. So here there was a change in the mode of worshipping God. In the early Vedic period, people, they worship God by reciting prayers and hymns. Now this gave way to elaborate religious ceremonies and sacrifices, and the religious worship had become very complex. Here in the later Vedic period, the people, they believed in karma, that is, a person's position in this life is determined by his actions in the previous life. And you can see Lord Prajapati, that is the creator god, Vishnu, the preserver, and Lord Shiva, the destroyer, emerged as all-powerful deities. And through worship and sacrifices, people asked for praja, that is children, pashu, cattle, food, health and wealth. So this was about the religious life during later Vedic period. Next, let's have a case study about the megalithic cultures in India. So during the time when the rishis or the sages were composing hymns of Rig Veda, Chalcolithic culture and megalithic culture flourished in Rajasthan, Deccan, Kashmir and southern part of India. So before entering into this topic, let's see what does these 2 cultures mean. So the first one is Chalcolithic culture. So this is an important phase of prehistoric human development, and during this phase, the people, they realized the use of copper and they used it for making different tools and implements. And this period came to be known as the Chalcolithic culture or Chalcolithic period. The next one is the megalithic culture. So here the people, they realized the use of iron and they used it for making different tools and implements. So this was about the Chalcolithic culture and megalithic culture. And we gathered lots of informations about these 2 cultures from megaliths. So what are megaliths? Megaliths are large stone structures or group of standing stones that are believed to have some religious significance, and sometimes they were erected on burial sites. Now, this term, that is megalith, is derived from a Greek word where mega means large and lithos means stone. And in India, we can find these megalith sites in Kashmir in the north, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Kerala and Andhra Pradesh in the south. So, this was about the megalithic sites in India, and the megalithic culture ranges from 1000 BCE to 300 CE. So, here CE means common era, and the megalith builders, they have not left behind any books or text, and we get the information about this megalithic cultures only by the material remains excavated by the archaeologists. And these excavations have suggested that the megalith, that is this large stone structures, were erected by different groups of people. That is, the first one is group of people who used iron tools and implements. The next group is of the people who practiced agriculture and grew different crops. The third group is of people who practiced hunting, fishing and animal husbandry. The next one is of group of people who had well developed craft traditions, because the archaeologists, they have found many material remains like pottery, both grey ware and black and red ware, beads, copper and bronze artifacts and gold and silver ornaments from the burial sites. And here the people, they buried their dead ones in pits, urns and sarcophagus. So, you can see here the urns are the big large vases with a cover or a lid, and it had a narrow neck with rounded body, and sarcophagus are the stone coffins with sculptures or inscriptions on it. So, the people during that period, they buried their dead in pits, urns and sarcophagus, and they used stones to construct or mark the burial site as memorials for the dead. And the findings of the material remains from these burial sites shows that the people, they believed in life after death. During this period, people, they also had lots of differences among themselves, and this could be proved by the excavation held at Brahmagiri site, where a skeleton was found with more gold beads, copper bangles and stone beads as compared to the other skeleton. So, this was about the megalithic culture. Now, let us have a look at the Deccan burials. So, here in Maharashtra around Nagpur, the megalithic people, they buried their dead ones with proper rituals, and they erected huge stones in a circular fashion around the burial area, as you can see this in the first picture. And at the site of Jorve, that is in Maharashtra, people, they buried their dead ones inside the house under the floor. And here you can see in the second picture, children were buried in two urns that were joined mouth to mouth, and it was set in a horizontal position in the pits. And in the third picture, you can see the adults were laid horizontally with face upward and head towards the north. So, this was about the Jorve burial site. Next, let us have a look at the Enamgaon burial site, which is a Chalcolithic site, and here the adults were buried inside the house and they were laid horizontally with face upward and their head towards the north. So, this was about the Enamgaon burial site. So, with this topic, we have completed chapter number 4, that is the Vedic life. Next, you have an activity where you have to talk about the Hittites given in page number 39. You have to record it and submit it. That's all for today. We'll meet in the next class. Thank you.